CRTC has held hearings the last 2 weeks on wholesale billing for internet service. Howard Solomon is the assistant editor of Network World Canada, and he's going to tell us how we got there.
Well, Dave, in 2009, Bell Canada applied to the CRTC to change the way its wholesale pricing goes to independent internet providers, and it wanted to introduce what it calls usage-based billing. And UBB is essentially a regime where if you buy for $30 a month, say, you're buying 30 gigabytes of capacity, you go over that capacity and you pay a penalty. Bell had started this for its own retail subscribers in 2006. It now said it had to force ISPs into the same kind of a pricing regime because it wanted to make sure that the unlimited data plans that the ISPs had would not cause congestion on the Bell network.
ISPs obviously objected.
They were very vehement about this, and when the CRTC's ruling was finally made in January, there was a huge outcry, and the Harper government very quickly let it be known that it didn't want to approve this, that it essentially meant that a wholesaler would have control over the pricing of a competitor. And so the CRTC, under political and public pressure, backed down, said it was going to revisit this. Bell also backed down, and it changed its proposed pricing plan, and thus we had these public hearings.
And the proposed pricing plan, what is that called again?
It's called aggregated volume pricing.
And it differs from UBB how?
Well, what it would have the ISPs do is buy blocks of capacity from Bell or from any carrier if the CRTC approved. And the ISP would be held to that capacity every month that it had bought in advance if in aggregate the total number of users went over that total, then the ISP would pay a penalty. And the point is that the ISP would then have to adjust its pricing to take into account the possibility that users would go over. In a lot of ways, yes. The interesting thing is that you had the cable companies, Shaw, Rogers, Cogeco, Videotron, who said, excuse me, I shouldn't put in Videotron, TELUS.
MTS.
And MTS, and they said, look, we have no congestion on our network. And the reason why we have no congestion on our networks is we run our networks better than Bell, and so we really don't need to have, at the moment, any kind of pricing that links capacity in the way that Bell wants. Bell insists that any kind of formula has to be sensitive to capacity in order to make sure that there's no congestion. Virtually everybody else at the hearing said, "Gee, you've got no congestion." So that was a very interesting part of the hearing.
CRTC has a bit of a conundrum on its hands.
Yes, it does, because the ISPs, a group of ISPs, have submitted a plan, and they say, basically, they're only going to pay for the peak capacity that they use on a carrier's network. And there would be a complicated formula, by the way, that would measure it. But they say, you know what, at peak hours, that's when the real cost to a carrier is on the network. On off-peak hours, the network is running below capacity, and therefore we shouldn't have to be paying at that. And so the rate we pay, they suggest, is during peak hours. If peak hours are 10 to 11 p.m., for example, the formula should be counted on how much it costs at that point, and that's all they pay. And the cable companies and Bell said, I'm sorry, it doesn't quite work that way. And so there's a difference. One competitor, one person in this hearing has suggested a different way, and that's Manitoba's phone company, MTS Allstream. And to simplify it, their pricing scheme says is kind of close to cost-based. They would look at the maximum capacity that's being demanded on their network and then make a pricing formula based on that. What they would not have to do, an ISP would not have to do, as in the Bell's suggestion, is to in advance buy capacity and then be held to that. The MTS suggestion is you just let us know how much you need, we'll provision the network, and the pricing formula works that way. And I think a lot of the CRTC commissioners have some sympathy with that kind of formula because it comes closer to a cost-based formula. That's a big conundrum for them. The MTS solution might offer a way out. Each company that's appeared before the commission has submitted confidential financial information that we're not allowed to see. And the CRTC is now going to have to go back, take a look at these numbers, get an idea of which would work in the real world, and come up with a formula.
Howard, thanks for sorting that out for us.